Disclaimer: I am not responsible or the creator of the of this BIOS flash, or creators. I don't know. I think it's one guy. But anyways, neither of us are responsible for any damage that may be caused to your computer because of an action that you took as the person making an informed decision to do this modification yourself. With that said, let's get into it. So first, the things you will need is you will need access to this README, or not, wow, yeah, the GitHub page, and a Linux terminal. Oh, and a flash drive. You will need a flash drive, probably just at least 4 gigs, but I don't even think it's that big. You might even be able to do it too, I haven't checked. But anyway, if you have a Linux machine, if you have a Raspberry Pi, or if you have a just another computer lying around with Linux on it, preferably Debian based, so like Ubuntu, Linux Mint, MX Linux. Use Debian. There's a lot of them. My mind's just going blank right now, but the biggest one is like Ubuntu. So if you use like Ubuntu, or are familiar with it, have it, these steps you can literally copy and paste, which is the method that I used, and that I would encourage newbies who are kind of really nervous and scared to do this modification themselves. So let's start with the README, and let's just jump right into it. This first note right here is important. Starting with the BIOS version 2.82, Lenovo started enforcing stricter validation on BIOS patches. So basically, before this would work fine. Starting with this BIOS version, you have the patch has to be verified and validated by Lenovo, which obviously this is not. So with that said, you need to roll back to 2.81, which is not a problem. You can get that officially from Lenovo. I'll put a link in the description. And also a side note, you can use all of these techniques for if you have an X series, like an X230 or like a W530 or T530, whatever. Yeah, whatever the model you have. Here's the instructions. It'll tell you what version you need to roll back to, and you can get that from Lenovo. So let's proceed further down. So here we go. So I found, since I was too nervous to actually type all this stuff in fear I was gonna, mess something up, I just copy and pasted. So you can do what you wish, but like I said, I didn't want to take any chances. So first thing is sudo apt-get update. Then you're going to be getting these build tools. Yes. And then once that's installed, you're going to clone a copy of the repo. And then this. I know you real hardcore Linux users are probably cringing that I'm using the mouse to copy and paste, but YOLO, I'm a trendsetter. Just kidding. Anyway, so this make list laptops is going to show you the different patches. And at this stage, you are going to need to make sure you pick the right one. Okay? So you need to make sure that if you're flashing a T430, that it is the T430.img file. If it's a T430S, that will not be the same as the T430. There is a separate image for that one. If it's a T530, T530i, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. There we go. So this is just showing you the USB image file names. So the next step is we're going to actually make the patch. However, at the bottom there is a note that tells you that the only patch enabled by default is the keyboard patch. There is also a battery validation patch that you can enable, but you need to do that at this point, not after. So before you build the patch, you're going to need to do that if you so wish. So basically a small little history on that one. Lenovo, starting with the 30 series, made it to where you need it needs to be an official Lenovo battery, so they run a validation check to see if it is. If it's a third-party aftermarket battery, they won't charge. With that said, if you want to get rid of that, which I absolutely do, here's a little list of the different commands you got to enter. So if you want to use the validation patch, you need to enable it because it is disabled. So we're going to want to get this command, make patch enable battery clean, and we're going to want to add that, and now we're good. I'm getting ahead of myself. If you don't want to enable the battery patch, then just leave it as it is. And if you just want the keyboard, then you're good the way it was before we did this. If you want to enable just the battery and not enable the keyboard, because note, if you are still using the 6-row keyboard and you use this patch for the battery, it's going to screw up your keyboard because it already enables by default the 7-row configuration. So if you just want the battery, which on the computer I'm using right now, that's all I want because I haven't gotten my 7-row yet for this computer. So I would actually run make patch disable keyboard clean as well. But I'm just going to reflash my main computer, which I have the 7-row on, so I'm not going to do that. But if you just wanted the battery, then you need to run this one as well as disable the keyboard patch. All right, let's go back. Now we are going to build our patch. So this is where it's important. See, I did a copy and paste, but I didn't build it yet because I do not have an x230. I have a T430, and this is where you need to make sure that this matches your model. So make patch.t430.image, so that's my computer. So that's what I want, so I'm going to go ahead and build it. So it's going to go ahead and build my patch. So that's almost going to be done. And then you're going to be checking the name of your drive in the next step. Okay, so that took a little longer than I thought, but anyway, so this tells you what patches were applied. So the keysim patch, the replacements patch, the FN keys patch. So this is all just related to the keyboard. And see here our battery validation patch. So what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to use the 7-row configuration as well as get rid of that battery validation check. So now we're going to, if you have your plug-in, you should have had your USB drive plugged in already. I probably should have said that. Or plug it in and then run this command, and this is going to give you a list of your media. So in this case, this is my flash drive. I only have one hard drive in here, so which is the 60 gig. So my 14.5 is my flash drive. So SDB. This is what you're gonna need is the drive name. All right. So now we're going to make our USB drive bootable, and we're going to put our patch on it. So like I said, I copy and paste, and then you need to edit this based on what it is that you're using, because SDX, that's not my label. Mine is SDB. So there's the first correction, and then I'm also not flashing an X230. It is a T430. So for me, make sure you check this. This is very important. This is critical. At step 5, when you built the patch, you need to make sure that matches your exact model. And at this step, you need to make sure it matches your exact model. So sudo dd if patched.t430.image of dev sdb, and then the rest is good. So my drive name is correct. My patch model is correct. So I will hit enter. And there we go. I have put the patch on a bootable USB drive, and now the next step is the scariest part. If you've done everything correctly, your computer will flash beautifully, and if it didn't, then, well, your computer's dead. But we're going to be positive. Now, I've done this before. It's going to be fine. I did this on 3 of my computers, and I didn't break it. As long as you follow the steps and make sure before you boot from it, you're going to be okay. Which I meticulously checked. So now on to the fun part. Let us begin. That's right. Important to note, you are going to need preferably a fully charged battery as well as being plugged into AC power. This is the most critical step. Try not to mess up on this one. Do not let your computer power can die. If it's flashing your controller or flashing your BIOS and your power goes out, unless you know how to fix that kind of stuff and work with BIOS chips, but I don't. So yeah, so here we go. So I already have it installed, so I'm gonna reflash it at great risk to myself. No, why didn't that work? Okay, I wasn't fast enough, I guess. So you're gonna need to boot from your, there we go, from your flash drive. I always get nervous when I do this. So here's my flash drive, so I'm going to boot from it. This is the page you're going to get. It's going to tell you what patches are going to be applied. So in this case, our keysim patch, are all keyboard ones, and the battery validation patch. This is telling us what it's going to flash. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to flash it. It's going to do its little thing. Then it's going to be like, beep, and say your BIOS successfully flashed. See, image flashing, BIOS is updated successfully. Do not touch. It will reboot on its own and flash the controller. So do not touch anything. See, flashing embedded controller, and then it'll restart on its own. Let it go. That's done. And it'll boot up like normal. Now it's done. And now I'll boot into Linux and I'll show you that all the keys work. Right, I opened a LibreOffice document so that I could show you guys. Wow, hello. All right, wow, wow, Jed, learn to spell. All right, so I'm gonna hit the end key. It works. Home works. Delete key works. However, important to note, this video isn't about the hardware portion of actually how to put this in there, because that in itself is kind of a chore. Take the extra few minutes to tape the pins. I'll put a link to some tutorials on how to get the keyboard in there. I didn't do that. I didn't isolate the pins, or I didn't tape the pins, and my keyboard kind of shorted, and I no longer have functionality in my Alt keys or my print, screen, or scroll, and pause, these three buttons up here. I don't have those, and I don't have my Alt buttons, which to some people is probably very important, but to me, I mean, I never really use those, except for print screen, but I can just remap those keys to something else, because I use Linux. But all in all, that's it. That's really it. Thanks for watching. Hope this wasn't too much of a waste of time. Hopefully it was helpful, and I will see you, well, no I won't, but have a good one, guys.